And the wheels are still not finished. Oh no! Completely petrified with what I was doing. Be able to see there's a lot of pinholes. These would look good if they could match. I had to go and grab one more can of wheel paint. This is now the 6th can. The cover plate, which covers the pyro fuse, which is just under there. I have to admit something. It's a Mercedes Benz. I kind of expect the quality to be a bit more than that. And with all my pressing and prodding, I should have just left it alone. If I paint directly over that, it's just going to fill it and you'll see it. This weather is absolutely atrocious. It is so damn hot in here. I have a problem with the compressor. Team, it is another morning and I finally have some money. Today we go and get the paint, the thinners, the plastic, tack cloths, all of that good stuff to paint the C200. In the meantime, I need to go and get another can of wheel paint. Not because there's been any more reactions, but simply because a wheel has fallen over and has completely wrecked the finish. It wasn't me that knocked it over either, and it was on a nice lean so that it couldn't happen, but it did. So the wheel fairy's been in the shed and knocked it over. So we're gonna get another can of paint to fix that up. We're gonna go and get the paint, the thinners, and all that good stuff. And so we can get on with the C200. Exciting, exciting! A quick look at what we've got to fix. This is the rear wheel, or one of. You can kind of see there's marks all over it. It fell over face down and just completely just got wrecked. So this has got to be rubbed back and repainted and then put to the side so we can get on with the rest of the car. Team, it is the 29th of December. Can you believe Christmas has come and gone? It is unbelievable. We are right this far away from the end of the year. And the wheels are still not finished. I am so thinking I should just have sent them off to A Steel Powder Coaters to have been redone. But I'm this close. So, have a look at this. As I said before, the wheel had fallen over, hit the ground, and just chipped it really badly, as you can see. So I've got to take this right back. I tried sanding it with 320, but as you can see, there are just little pits everywhere. So we've had to sand it with a 120 grit, which has taken it right down, even back to the aluminium, but it has taken out the grooves. And then, as you can see, I've done it with a 320 to really smooth it off, which we can now then repaint. So that's where we're at. I'm now going to just finish this off, and I have two others to try and work out what to do. So have a look at this. As you can see, I left these outside after giving them a bit of a wash, and then some of our sheep just decided to come along and scratch them up. So now that they're like that, I've got to do something about getting them back to pristine condition. So I'm going to just get it done somehow, tell you what I did, and then get them on the car. Team, well, I have painted the wheel. I used my new mask, worked well, and it's come up pretty good indeed. Pretty happy with it. Am I absolutely ecstatic with it? No, not ecstatic, but it does look far better than what it did before. As you can see, certainly a far cry better to what it was before, where it was just reacting all over the place. All the chip marks that you could previously see are now gone. After using the 120 to get rid of the chips,
I should have then gone up in the paper size, in the grit size, to have smoothed it out a lot more. So lessons learnt, that's what to do in the future. So as you can see, that is far better than what it was. So I'm going to leave it for the night, come back in the morning, get the tape off front and back, get it on the car, and that is it done. Now just got to work out what to do with the other two with the sheep hoof marks all over them, because I certainly don't want to have to sand them and repaint the whole wheels. So it's going to be a bit hard to paint just part of them. So leave a comment, let me know what would be the best case thing to do.
So remember I said I needed a far bigger dent puller. We'll have a look at this. Got this sucker through the Vivor website direct. It is a far bigger unit than the little one. This thing is 4.5 kilos, I think it is, the one I got. Nice big unit. There's all the different attachments that you can put on it. So I'm just going to work out the best way to connect the bit that I'm going to weld onto the car to the puller so that we can make this thing do its job. So if you remember from the last episode, I did explain my idea on how to do this, which was welding on a bracket, a bit of flat metal, and then pulling on that. So of course, to be able to do that, we need to clear a spot to actually weld it onto. So that's exactly what I'm doing here with the coral wheel from AliExpress. Whenever you're going to do any welding on a vehicle, you've got to disconnect the battery. So disconnect the battery, I do. I have just lightly tacked it on and I forgot to hit record when I did it. Duh! Anyway, give it a quick clean up, just like that. I put a slot in that, so this here can fit in it, like so. Dent pull on here. Gonna heat this up with the heat gun because it does get it very, very hot. And then give it a couple of tugs and see if it makes a difference. And this kind of didn't go to plan, as you're about to see. First pull, and that little bit of sheet metal was wrecked. So we just got to cut in a new slot and try it again. I had it far too close to the end. And as you can see, no bueno. That did not work. So I have to clean up the welding that I did do with a hammer and dolly set. Found a far stronger piece of flat metal and then tacked that onto the door so we could give it another go. My welding skills are still got a lot to be desired. Heat up the area again and then give it another go. Oh no.
Yeah. Not good.
Oh, pulled it out though. Put a small hole in the door. But it did pull the dent out a little bit.
So, put it back in place, re-tacked it on, heated up the panel, and gave it another go.
Wow. That has actually made a difference. Obviously can't see it, but I can feel it. So now that it had been pulled forward a little bit more than what it was previously, it was time to tackle the part that I just couldn't figure out. There's something inside the door that is pushing against it that created this weird dent in the first place. So if anyone out there at all, someone from Mercedes maybe, knows exactly what is on the inside of the door, let me know. Leave a comment. So that I wasn't just continually banging on what was inside the door, I used the suction cup to pull it out forward so that when I was hitting it, it wasn't hitting the inside of what it was caused the problem. I tried and I tried. It made a small difference. Here is a far better angle to see what it is I'm trying to do. And yeah, I've got to fix up that hole. And there's only one way to fix that up, and that's with a welder. I use this straight edge that I've got here, which is actually my grinder nut key, which has got a nice straight edge on it, to go down the door so that I can see the high and the low spots. As you can see, there's a bit of flex just there. Which is far less than what it was previously though. Right, let's get this hole fixed up. And then with the flap wheel, go over and now try to neaten it up as much as possible. The whole idea is to put on more than what you actually need, so that when you grind it down, you've got a clean, neat surface underneath through the grinding. I'm so glad this door is steel and not aluminium, because that would not have been good. And this is the other spot where there was a tiny little dent, but it was still noticeable. So that had to be fixed up as well. There's a tiny hole right there. So I'm going to get the welder, put a little weld in there just to fill it up, and then file it back down. So after grinding it down, the hole was still there. It was a much, much smaller hole, but a hole nonetheless. So again, as I said, on with a bit of weld and then grind it back down. The hole is still there. Some things just don't go to plan. Anyway, we'll take care of that. And in the meantime, I get to use my orbital sander to scratch the door back. These sand pads just block up far too quickly and easily. And in the really hard, tight spaces, you've got to do it by hand. It's the absolute best way to do it. And it does take a fair amount of time to get a really clean, even surface all the way through. Using the window cleaner, which is a great wax and grease remover, to clean it off before coming out with a primer to cover up the bare metal. Now, I'm not overly concerned with runs and so forth on this. I just want to make sure it's covered. Team, it is right getting to the end of the day and I need to head inside because I am getting tired. This requires a lot of brain power to work out what it is you need to do, doing your research online and then giving it a go. So as you've seen, a lot of sanding, a lot of hammering, so forth. This particular spot right here, you can't really see it that well. Came out really well. That's smooth. That's just going to need to be lightly sanded again, and then Bog can go over that, and that will really neaten that off. This particular spot here, there's something on the inside of the door that has hit, and hence has made it pop out. Hence, I was using a suction to try and pull the skin forward while trying to tap it back. It's gone back a little bit, but nowhere near enough to get that to be flush. So that's going to require more work. The curve here is definitely less. Pulling it that way definitely did make a difference, but it didn't make quite enough of a difference. It's enough that it's going to be far less bog than what was originally possibly going to go in there, but there is still a curve in the door that I might just have to take as part of a learning curve. If that had pulled forward even a bit more, then it certainly would have worked. It definitely did what I was hoping it to do, but just not as much as I was hoping it would do. And I've got too much of a square edge on here. But when we come back to it, I can round that off, and we can neaten it up a bit more, and just try and work out this particular spot here. And then put the minimum amount of bog on there to get the door ready. And then sanding that and having it ready for paint means also getting the bonnet, the fender and the bumper all done as well. So things like the side skirt here also has to be sanded back to about here, as long as this whole door has got to be done back to this spot, because it's got to be blended in with the new paint, as well as the two A-pillars, one on this side and the other side, and part of the fender on the other side, because it's all going to be blended in from the new paint into the original. So now, I've never done this kind of panel beating before. I've never even attempted to do everything that I've just done right now. So please like, please subscribe, please let me know how I'm going, and we will keep going on to getting this ready. I got very impatient. I just stared at it and I thought, no, I've got to do something now. I want to know that I can do it. So I've literally just used the flap wheel to take the really pointy edge off. This is showing me that it is definitely not bulging out. It is definitely not bulging pointy like it was before. It has obviously made that particular spot, the high spot, a lot thinner, but so we put bog over this because it will be, I don't know, not reasonably thick, but it's going to be enough that it will recover it and make it smooth. But that actual spot that's been hit from whatever is behind the skin here is not what it was doing before. So that's definitely better. Should have done that in the first place. But quickly just clean off these runs and then give that another light spray. And then we can get it ready for bog. So another quick going over just to prepare the surface for this. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I've never done this before, as in mixed bog.
the actual main ingredient and the red stuff, which is the hardener. So there's a chemical reaction, and then you've got limited amount of time to then get this product onto the surface of what it is that you're working on. And as you can see, it's slowly changing colour, even that tiny amount of hardener that's in. Now, I didn't even know how much I needed, so I just put some down and gave it a go. I've watched lots of videos online, and there's even a very special technique required just to mix it so that you don't get air mixed in with your mixture. Using these flat hand scrapers, which came in 4 different sizes from, yep, you guessed it. And then smoothing it on. But again, people, I've never done this before. I really don't know what I'm doing. It's not like plastering a wall. That I've done before, and that's all I had to go on physically, experience-wise, other than watching heaps of videos. But as you can slowly see, it's starting to set, it's starting to get harder, and you can tell because it's starting to get thicker.
It is the next day, and I realized after I'd done it that I just was completely petrified with what I was doing. And I have not done it overly well at all, but it is what it is, and so I'm going to have to deal with it and work with it. I should have spent this time getting this section here correct, and then done that. But you have such a limited time, it says like 5 to 6 minutes once you've mixed it, to get it on and get it in place, and it does like dry out pretty quickly, hence the chemical reaction between the hardener and the filler. Anyway, so now I gotta start sanding it, but this bit right here should have been a bit more over the top so that I could sand into that spot. So I don't think I'm gonna have enough in here, but let's find out.
So it's got to be sanded back. I'm pretty sure I'm using about a 240 or a 320 grit paper here, with a paper and a cool hard sponged Loop and Pile sanding block from, yeah, that website. Taking my time, even though I've obviously sped this up, because again, I just haven't done this before, so I'm going off what I've seen, what other people have explained, and giving it a go. Out with the orbital sander just to make this a bit quicker a process. Being careful to try and smooth it without digging into the bog and creating more low spots.
Well, it came out a bit better than I thought, but I still need to add to this bit. It's just a little bit lower. I put on far too much bog. I just did not need to mix up the amount that I did, but like I said, it was the first time I've ever done it, so learn as you go. So I need to just mix up the tiniest amount more, because that is actually in, and I just need to add a tiny bit here just to bring it out, and then I can make it a straight line across here, so it's a smooth surface across, because that is still slightly indented and we need it to be nice and flush.
So after adding some more, so out with the orbital sander, just to get it all ready again, mixed up a very small amount and put it on in the spot that I needed.
So I've just made up some bog, a small amount. I've put it on, hoping that I've put on enough. And while I was at it, because I actually had some excess, I quickly sanded this spot that had the tiniest indentation from after we pulled out as much as I could. So I've just put some over that so that we can smooth that over, because this has to be sanded anyway, because we've got to mix, we've got to blend the bonnet and the fender and the door, and that A-pillar has to be done as well. Same with the other side. So we'll let them dry and then we'll sand both of those and see if we have a great success. I've left it for about half an hour. It's dry. It's pretty quick drying stuff. So now just to sand it, try and get it to a better shape. Make sure there's no dips in it, and check it with a straight edge and see how it looks. So with a 320 disc, I'm going over it just to smooth it, following the contour of the A-pillar. And then with an 800, going over it just to smooth it off and feathering the edges of the bog. Using that pneumatic sander is just awesome because it just speeds the process up. You've got to be careful not to overdo the spots because it takes it off pretty quickly, and I have seen guys online saying that you got to be careful with especially aluminium panels, that it heats them up because it's moving so quickly. So you got to watch the speed when you're doing these things. Now I have gone through and done this. There are the tiniest of pinholes on here, which is not great. And when I went and did my little half-day course, as well as many videos, these guys who do this all the time says that this is the best way to determine what the surface is like, whether it's flat or not. Obviously you can get a straight edge and tell these things, but just feeling it, it is now slightly dipped here and it's slightly raised here. So I need to feel this spot right here up a bit and give it another go. So that's what I'm going to do. Mix up a little bit more. All part of the learning curve. A little frustrating, but how do we learn? One other quick point I learnt from doing my little half-day course is that if you've got bare metal, not to put bog straight on top, which is what they used to do many moons ago when panel beaters were doing this. What actually happens is if you put the bog directly on the bare metal, the moisture can get in and sit there, and hence it rusts out. So hence, I'm going to spray that with a bit of primer and then put the bog on top. So again, clean up the area, get ready with some primer. After checking with a straight edge, just to work out where I need to add some more. And then give it another sand. Using your hand to determine any high or low spots. You've got to constantly check your work as you're doing it. That is the best way. Okay, the primer has dried. You might be able to see there's a lot of pinholes. So the way I am mixing the filler is probably not the best way, as it seems, but that's how I've seen people do it on video. And anyway, just got to keep going. So I'm going to give it a sand by hand just to try and take top layer off, maybe seeing if I can get a runnier, more fluid filler. It's probably going to be better because this bit was a little thickish. Maybe I had too much hardener in there. I don't know. Anyway, if you do know, leave me a comment and help me out, people. Let's do it. The weather is also a really big factor in bog. Bog is on. I tried to get it on as soon as I had mixed it so that it was as fluid as it could possibly be, and it starts to set pretty quickly. It's a warm day, which I should have stopped and considered and made part of the equation, which you need to do. And it was starting to set within a couple of minutes, and I was still trying to spread it a little bit, which is how I think I probably ended up with the pinholes in the first place. It just needs to be put on and then left. So it certainly takes time to learn how to put it on in a very, very, very tight time frame. So no wonder getting panel and paint done at professional places costs quite a bit of money, because you're paying for someone's time, but not just their time, but their expertise, if they're experts at it. But if they've spent 4 years learning a trade, you can understand why, because it is not a 5-minute process in any way, shape or form. Doesn't matter how many videos I've watched and seen guys prepping cars and painting cars, it is always the prep like this: sheeting, sanding, getting the surfaces level and ready for paint, that takes the absolute huge majority of time. The actual painting process, although there is a skill attached to it, doesn't take as much time at all, and yet that is the most satisfying part. But to get that satisfying part, you've got to do all the prep beforehand, and it's things like this that make it happen. So sand it, see where we get. So back out with the orbital sander and smooth it all off, get it down, checking with the hand to see what our finish is like. And it's not bad. I have gone through and sanded this down first with the 120, then I went to a 320, and then I went to the 800. It has come out pretty well indeed. Unfortunately, there are still some pinholes in there. So I'm going to get online and have a look to see what it is. Maybe there's another product I can use that can help alleviate that, because you just can't have that. The paint doesn't, it's not like a house paint where you have a small hole and the paint's thick enough and it will actually fill it in. Auto paint just does not do that because it's so thin. Otherwise, is it the world's best job? No. Am I happy with it? Reasonably. For my first attempt ever at doing what I've just done, I am reasonably happy. You can come from here, go across, and you don't notice the dent that was there before. So that is a bonus. It does have to be sanded with some 800, but I'm going to do that in the next couple of days when I go to do the entire half door and the bottom part of the skirting. So that prepares it all for the blending, which has to be done all over the bumper, fender, and the bonnet, and the other side, so including the A-pillar. That was already done. I did get some exposed metal, so I've just thrown some primer on there, just so we don't get any surface rust coming through. So I'm heading in the right direction, that is for sure. A professional would feel that and tell his apprentice to pull his head in and do it again. I don't have that time. I don't have that time up my sleeve to be able to do that. So I am going to leave it as is, because it is a far cry improvement as to what it was, but I've got to work out what to do with these pinholes. So I have thrown some primer back on the spot just to cover the exposed metal. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to get the daytime running lights. I'm going to take them out of the black surrounds, take the grille and the other bumper parts outside, give them a quick pressure wash to get all the dirt off them, because like I said before in the last part, I'm going to see if it's possible to get these black parts to be a gloss black without trying to go into too much effort, that is. Because like I said, the grille is going to be gloss black. These would look good if they could match. So it's out some screwdrivers, looking over how these are actually connected, and then just reverse engineering them and pulling them apart. Get everything outside and get them clean. And being such a warm day, it was not a bad idea to get a little splash of water here and there, because it was an absolute scorcher. Team, we are back. Now, we've worked out a way on how to fix the pinholes that was in the bog. I got online and found there's stuff called glazing putty or blade putty. So I have gone down and gotten some of that, which just happens to be the same brand as the body filler, which is probably a good thing. Anyway, I had to go and grab one more can of wheel paint. This is now the 6th can. They're $18 each, so that's not massively expensive, but that's like nearly 120 bucks, whatever, 110 bucks that I've spent on that, which was never originally supposed to be the plan. But we've got one more to do to finish that off. Haven't shown you this. This is everything we should need to be able to do the job. This is plastic, which is going to hang up in here to create a safe painting space. This is the big, huge roll of plastic, which goes over this car and other cars in the future. And this is all the different clear coats, base coat for the Merc, gun wash, tack cloths, everything else that we're going to need to do the paint job. So, what I'm going to do now is get some of this on. It's supposed to be really quick drying. It's apparently just a 1 part. It's not even a 2 part. So I'm going to get some of that on, let it dry, maybe get it sanded. I'm going to put the spare wheel on the car. We're going to get the Merc out of here so that we can then actually start to clean this up, give it a good squeak, get some stuff out of here to create some more room so that we can get the plastic organized. Once the car's out, I'm going to paint the wheel, and we're also going to get the bonnet and the bumper and the fender on the trestles so that we can start sanding them. Let's go.
Now let me tell you, the smell of this stuff is strong. But as you can tell just by that, it goes on really nicely. It is a much thinner, finer texture. So hence it goes into the really small holes that have been left behind by the body filler.
It's already starting to harden.
This is a great feeling, really progressing by getting the wheels on the car, getting it ready to go out. So I put that wheel on, which gave the bog on this side time to dry out.
I have put on this new blade putty. I like it. It's nice and thin. It sets really, really quickly though. So come in here and you will see I had a lot more pinholes, but there's still just like 3 there. And there's a spot here that I just need to fill the tiniest amount more because I can feel it as you're running a handle on it. It's the tiniest of a dip. So that stuff is just going to go in there. We exposed a bit of metal, and so I put some more primer on there because you cannot put this directly on the bare metal. So we're going to put a tad more, both these spots, let it dry, give it a quick sand, and see how good a result we get. Okay, because we did some welding previously on the driver's door, the battery was disconnected. I'm now going to reconnect it so that we can open the boot. I can take the spare tire out. We're going to use the spare tire on the driver's side so we can get the Merc outside. We can clear the space, get the other wheel painted, and that gives us far more room to sand the bumper, the fender, and the bonnet. That is the positive terminal with the cover plate, which covers the pyro fuse, which is just under there. This is negative. This should have a plate as well, but it doesn't. Oh, hello, Bubby. Put this back in place. Flip it on.
This stuff is really easy to sand as well. It's a great product.
So I've got to feather this in, so it shouldn't have this sharp edge. You can see how that's blending from one color to another. That really sharp, tiny bit right there, you can feel. And there's right there a bit of white sitting in it.
Now that that's done, it's time to get the jack stands out from under the car, get all 4 wheels back on the ground, and get it outside.
Time to get the Merc out of the workshop.
So this is what ended up happening with the sheet hoofed wheels. I had to rub them both back. There was no way around it, and redo them.
Team, Happy New Year. It is the 2nd of January. It is an absolute scorcher here in Perth. It's somewhere between 37 and 39 degrees today. I've got both the doors open. The Merc's outside under a tree because it is an absolute scorcher. I have to admit something. In my headspace, I'm just like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. When, of course I can, because I haven't even tried it before. I've just got to do it. It's like when I was bogging the door and trying to pull it out. It's stuff I've never done before, and it was just playing on my head that I couldn't do it. I've watched enough videos to have an idea of what to do, so I've just got to give it a go and learn. So please comment, please let me know how I'm going, because that's how I will learn, is by people who watch, who have done these things before, letting me know how I'm going or how I can improve things. Anyway, we're so close to getting this done. It is literally just sanding these down, the bonnet, the bumper, and the fender. A few parts that have got to be blended on the car, and then that's it. It's painting it. And then it's a matter of setting this up to be able to do that. So Callum and I have spent the morning doing a few things outside. Now it's in here. So I've just noticed how dusty and dirty this actually is. So we're going to take all the panels outside, give them a really quick wash down, get them actually clean, get them dry, get them back in here, and get these sanded.
So outside we gave them a quick wash over and brought them back in to do exactly as you're seeing now. Sand them down. I asked Noah at a paint place in Rockingham the best way to go forward with this, and he said just use an 800 grit. You're literally just needing to scuff the surface really well, remove the shine so that the paint has got something to stick to. Now I wanted to be really careful around this particular plate on the inside of the bonnet, so I just took my time getting around that, and then worked my way around the entire rest of the underside, as you can see. Now with so many little dips and grooves and bends and all the structural holes in there, it took some time. But I wanted to make sure that I had every nook and cranny that was going to have some new paint put on it scuffed up.
Okay, this is now sanded. I think Merc kind of Mercedes got a bit slack here. It's probably the same on all of them on the W204s, I'd guess, but there's only one layer of base coat on the underside, and I can understand why, but it's a Mercedes Benz. I kind of expect the quality to be a bit more than that. The middle's not even painted, which, you know, makes sense because it's covered up by the underfelt there, the sound deadening. And the outside has literally got one layer of base coat on it, because I've only used these 800 grit sand pads, which just literally happened to have arrived this afternoon from, guess where, AliExpress. Little stacking, bought some 400s, 600s and 800 grits, and just perfect timing. And these are really sharp, and they seem to last reasonably. I've used one pad, and you can see the size of it. I mean, it's small. And I've used one pad to do the entire underside of the hood, and it's still got some grit to it, and it wasn't this one. But one layer of base coat, really? I also have to show you this. Right here is a small dent on the very, very front edge of the bonnet. So I need to tap it here just to make it equally flat there, and then I've got to put in the tiniest amount of body filler just to then be able to shape that back to the same as what either side is, so that you won't even notice it. So I've got to do that now.
out with the hammer and dolly set and do exactly as I said. Get that underside flattened so it's not noticeable. Scuff it up and put in some of that new blade putty because it's a really, really small indentation. And then both Callum and I started on the top of the bonnet. And let me tell you, this was actually exciting because I've watched lots of videos and seen how it looks. Then to actually be doing it yourself on your own project really was satisfying. Callum was super excited and just wanted to dive in and help as well. So I had him go around the edges which needed to be done by hand and not the orbital sander. Orbital sander is really, really good when you've got nice open, wide, flat spaces. But if you've got lots of curves and bends, it's nowhere near as good. You need to do it by hand. Especially when you've got spots like this where the Mercedes Benz bonnet emblem goes, you've got to do it by hand. And these sanding pads, they're just awesome. And I didn't work out till way later because they're grey. You can use them like a wet and dry. This is sanded. We've got a couple of spots that's just to do by hand, but the front chip that we filled in here is still not fully set. I use the pink stuff, which it doesn't need a hardener in it, but there's a spot that's just a bit thicker, so it's just going to need longer to dry. So once that's done, which will be tomorrow, then we'll sand and get that reshaped. In the meantime, we're going to take this off because Cullen wants to do the fender, so let's do that. When we did all the stripping, I never took this black plastic piece out of the fender, so we'll do that now. That black piece was just held on by 3 plugs, which just came out, and off came the piece. So, on with the fender, same scenario. Because it was a lot smaller, and it was basically mainly curves, we just did it by hand. And then back to the bonnet the next day, just to shape it off, and following the curves of the bonnet, so that you wouldn't be able to tell once it's painted. But it's gone in. Yep. That still needs the tiniest amount in there. Well, good morning team. I've just given this a quick rub, and with all my pressing and prodding yesterday, I should have just left it alone. Anyway, I need to put in the tiniest amount to fill in the little dimple that has created. And then just leave it and sand it back. Otherwise, the entire thing's done. The fender's now done. We're just got to do the bumper after this. Callum and I have been outside doing stuff all day. It is another scorcher here in Perth. This has well and truly dried, so I'm just going to quickly sand it and get it shaped. When the body fillers dry out, they shrink. And that's why I had a small indentation. Right, now I've got to use some finer paper, like the 800, finish it off. See these white dots?
Yep.
They are tiny little stone chips in the paint. We've also got to fill in with this fine stuff. Thing is, once I wash this off, I'm not going to be able to see them as well. Look at that one, see? You can't leave that, I can't paint over that. See this here? These are stone chips all the way through, and they all have to be filled up. If I paint directly over that, it's just going to fill it and you'll see it. So this bonnet is going to take quite a bit of time. See this one up here? Another one right there. But this spot here has come out really good. Now it's just a nice smooth curve. And because we've got some exposed metal, even being aluminium, and we've got bog there, we need to have the primer. This weather is absolutely atrocious. It is so damn hot in here. I've just turned the fan off because I need to record and say how damn hot it is in this workshop right now. I've taken the bumper outside, and I have pressure washed it and washed it down with a cloth to get as much dirt off it as I can. So now it's just in here. It's been in here a few minutes. It is so warm in here that it is pretty much dry. I have a problem with the compressor. There is far too much water coming out of the air gun. I was using it and had water pooling in my hand. So I'm going to have to work out about what to do, because you cannot have water coming through the line when you're trying to paint. I know that, and I've never done it before. So I do have some ones I could possibly borrow, so I'm going to suss that out. I'm going to find out from them if they have the same problem, but theirs is a very, very new compressor. So that means I'm going to have to change this one out at some point. So maybe give it a bit of a clean up and sell it off. I've still got my old Ryobi that was not strong enough for the little hand sandblaster, if you've seen way back when we were doing the quad. Anyway, let's get this bumper sanded and move on.
Do this first.
That piece is the little cover plate that goes on the bumper, so that you would pull that out of the way and put in your tow rod that goes into the front of your car. So again, the whole idea is just to scuff up the top surface for the new paint to go onto. So using those red and grey sand pads, 800 grit from AliExpress, just going over the entire thing and scuffing it up. There's lots of little crevices, there's lots of little creases. As you can see, there's bends and curves galore. And where the daytime running lights sit, there's lots of little tabs which the light then clips into. They've all got to be given a sandback so that when we go to paint, it's got something to stick to. Because if it's too shiny, it just won't stick. Now, there was lots of chips, as you saw just a few on the bonnet. Well, this is just below the bonnet and even closer to the road, so guess what? There's a stack of chips in the bumper. Now you can't just use the standard same putty on the bumper. You've got to have a specialized flexible putty for the bumper. So I had to get online, do a bit of research about what was good product or what product to actually use. Team, it's been several days since I've been able to get back out to the workshop since the panels have all been sanded. So I've got them out here now. I'm going to wash them down, get them back inside so we can start putting in the tiny bits of filler into where all the stone chips are, so we can get it all nice and smooth. Team, it is now 9:45 at night. Everyone's gone to bed. So now I've got the opportunity, now that they're washed, they're now brought back into the workshop. I'm going to get on and try and fill in all the small little stone chips that I can. It's a lot harder to find now that it's been washed off, and the fine dust that's become from the original lacquer is now not filling the little spots. So I'm going to go around with a pencil and just put a circle around, then it's going to be much easier to find when it then comes out with the actual bog and putting it in. So let's do that. Now, of course, this took quite a bit of time, looking over it carefully, trying to find where all these little chips are. And right on that front edge was lots. Being the front edge of the bonnet, there's obviously a lot more. Anyway, I'll continue on. And then out with the blade putty to fill in these tiny little chips. The blade putty is not made as a body filler for deep filling. It is literally to do very, very shallow tiny little surface indentations.
Team, I'm back in the workshop finally. This is ready to be sanded. Now, I have never done this before, as I have explained, and I've just realized I've made a slight boo-boo and added work to myself. So let's have a look at what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. All these spots that I've gone miles too high in trying to get this on. Now, I was rushing to try and get this on because you shouldn't leave the can off of the lid.
I mean the lid off the can.
Miles too thick. They needed to be more like this, very flat, very fine, and just going over the spots that need covering. So unfortunately, that's going to probably take me a little longer to get flat. Now, what I'm actually going to do first is I've gone off and bought some of this, because there are also marks, holes, chips in the bumper. So I'm going to mix some of this up, get the bumper done as well. So while that's drying, I can sand that. And then once that's done, I can then sand the bumper. And we're just another step closer to getting painted. Just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about with the bumper, there's lots of chips all over this thing. There are little indentations everywhere. So this is going to take a bit of time to go over, try and fill up and fix all of these scuffs, because there are marks absolutely everywhere, all over it. Some of them pretty severe. So, gotta dive on and get on with that.
This stuff dried out so quickly. And again, I wasn't sure how much I needed, and I did a bit too much, but it just dried out like mega quickly. So I was rushing to try and put it on before it set. Anyway, after I'd got it in place, on with the compressor, hooked up the orbital sander, and away we went, sanding the entire bonnet again to smooth out all these tiny little chips that were in place. And as you're going to see on the next episode, where we're actually painting, I might have missed a couple. Leave a comment, people. Tell me how you think I'm going. If you do have any professionals out there watching, I really would love and appreciate your comments that can help me better what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, or how I'm doing it, or whether I'm using the right grit papers and so forth. Any information would be greatly appreciated. Man, I wish it was this quick.
Okay, I have gone over it with 320 to feather out and flatten out all the spots that had a little bit of blade putty in there. I then went over it with the 800 grit. I probably should have gone 600, but straight to 800 to smooth it out. And now I have gone over it with a can of primer to just cover it up. So there was a couple of spots that had the exposed aluminium, but I had to cover up all of the spots that were bogged, simply because it's very porous. And if you put the base coat straight on top of that, the base coat just soaks into it and then leaves a rough spot. So that will have to be sanded again very, very lightly, probably with something maybe even higher than 800, I guess. I'm not sure. I'll have to suss that out, or maybe just a very, very light going over with the 800 before it gets primed. But I might have to put a little bit more, before the base coat goes on. I might have to put a little bit more primer on. I'm not sure. The can that I was using was splattering and just running out. So there's a few little spots of splatter all over, so it has to be sanded anyway. But the main thing is that it's got to be smooth when you paint. And of course, with the overspray of the primer going on, it just makes it feel a little roughish. It is so dusty in here. I am really, really concerned. I cannot use my compressor. There is just far too much air coming out of the line. I mean water. On the edge of the workshop, blowing off the dust
off of the little orbital sander, and there was just water coming out everywhere, which was kind of handy at the time because it was washing the orbital sander off. But that's not going to be very good going through a paint gun. So I do have another compressor I can borrow, so I'm going to have to try and get it during the week. I absolutely have to paint next weekend. I've got 3 days off, well, Friday and Saturday. Sunday will be at church, praising the Lord and doing what needs to be done. But now that that's done, let's get the bumper up here, because that putty will have dried, and now let's get on and sand that. And this took just as much time, even though I hadn't put anywhere near as many spots on that I was trying to cover. This stuff was a lot harder to sand back. But again, all part of the learning curve. And if you want a good job, you've got to put in the time and effort to get a great result. So bit by bit, from one end of the bumper, I worked my way across, sanding back what I'd put in place. Because what I was actually trying to fill in was really, really small. But when I was putting this filler on, man, it was drying quick. But again, the weather is a big consideration you've got to put in place when you're using body fillers. Because it was just warm, and that was just helping it dry out really quick. I really am enjoying this new venture that I'm doing. I've watched these car guys doing this for ages, and I've always wanted to do this. And like I said, I started working on a car over 20 years ago, being my HT Holden Ute. So that is a project somewhere down the track that will be on here. But in the meantime, it's all a learning curve, and I sincerely mean that I really am enjoying this. I love taking something that's broken or not right and getting it back to how it should be. Team, that is a wrap for part 11 of the C200 rebuild. I'm pretty confident that there's only going to be about 2 episodes after this to go. In part 12, we definitely 100% use this. And in part 13, well, I'm kind of hoping that that is where it's all going back together and we get it re-registered and back on the roads. There's going to be a bit of a break between 12 and 13 simply because the family and I are heading off for a well-earned break. So please like, please subscribe, please share this content with people you know who like seeing cars get rebuilt and put back on the road. And if they want to have a bit of a laugh, they can watch someone who has no idea what they're doing but giving it a go anyway. See you on the next one.